Hey all, this is your hosts, Kid Aquarius and Nightshade. We are here with a Gen X Gaming News update. Welcome, Nightshade. Good to see you again.
All right, it's fantastic to be here as always. So on this show, we are finding what we can throughout the week, the most exciting, fun, interesting, wacky stories that we can that have anything to do with gaming, and then bringing it to you here so we can all talk about it and enjoy.
Exactly. And so if you enjoy watching our YouTube videos or listening to our podcast, please don't forget to subscribe, to like them, leave a comment if we need to hear it. We're always looking for input and feedback. So let's go straight into our first segment, which is our Gaming News in a Minute. Our Gaming News in the Minute is a segment where we go and we find news stories that piqued our interest that maybe you want to hear about, but we only really have 1 minute to tell the story. And that's why it's called Gaming News in a Minute. So, without further ado,
it's time for Gaming News in a Minute. Here we go.
All right, so we've all heard of Bethesda, and we've been talking about Bethesda Xbox thing for some time now, but these take time. But it is now done. Bethesda is now an Xbox company. Bethesda belongs to ZeniMax, which owns 8 studios, and they've all come into the Xbox universe. And what took a little while is they had to go through the EU's commission, the SEC in the US to make sure that this merger wasn't an antitrust violation or something. But here we go. It's a whole new world. So last week, 20 new Bethesda games premiered on Xbox Game Pass. So it's taking the Game Pass to another level, sort of the Netflix of the gaming world. So the big question is, what about exclusives? And they did announce it. There will be exclusives to the Xbox as part of this. There's still games going to PS and Twitch and Switch and other things, but there will be more of an exclusivity, and it's now Bethesda.
Well, listen, I love Bethesda games. It's finally time that Xbox took over PlayStation. Hey, I am not a sports game enthusiast. Tecmo Bowl would be the only and one sports game that I've really ever played outside of Mario Tennis. But is that really a sports game? Anyway, I never really played any sports games until Tiger Woods busted onto the scene with Tiger Woods golf games with EA Sports. And as a lifelong golf player and fan, the realism embodied within the controls of the game created a lifelong fan who had to re-up and renew with every new release of a Tiger Woods edition golf game. Until, of course, the fall from grace that Tiger Woods experienced as one of the most important athletes of my lifetime. And then as a partnership with EA was obliterated and Tiger Woods golf games were gone. With it came the end of all good golf games. But then now suddenly, with the resurgence of Tiger Woods, his partnership is back with Tour 2K Golf, and I am so happy I'll be able to swing the clubs again on the hallowed terrain of the PGA Tour fairways.
Oh, excellent. So last week we talked about Alien, the new video game, but Alien, the role-playing game, has now hit the scene. It's won some great awards. It's not just another sci-fi redo, but it manages to capture that horrific ambiance of the world of the guys put together, and it's just going to be really fun. And there's a new book coming out, Alien RPG Colonial Marine Operations Manual, that you got to get your hands on if you've ever done tabletop or if you want to get into it. It allows you to create your own badass team of xenomorph hunting roughnecks, including weapons, vehicles, and a healthy dose of lore. And if you don't have friends to play with, Foundry, the virtual tabletop platform, is going to be official licensee of this, and you'll be able to go there and meet some friends.
Awesome. Hey, listen, in October, Nintendo released Super Mario 3D All-Stars, right, as a special 35th anniversary celebration. And in this game, it combines 3 blockbuster titles from the franchise: Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. Well, 2 of those I would claim as being all-time greats. I have no idea what Super Mario Sunshine is. I've never even played it. Regardless, the company has announced that this version will be taken down from the store, and that physical versions of the game would also only be available while supplies last. So listen, I'm one of those collectors that love accruing items, and if you're a Gen Xer, I think you may do the same thing, right? I mean, you have your shelves of weird crap that you love to collect that have nostalgic value. Well, this is going to be one of those. Go buy it before they're gone. 30 years from now, your grandkids will be dusting it off saying, what is this thing? Then they'll look up, flip up the HoloLens in front of their eyes and say, Sir Alexa, what is Super Mario 3D All-Stars?
Woo. So we've all heard about loot boxes. You know, certain countries have taken a more proactive approach, seeing loot boxes as a form of gambling and trying to protect youth from them. You know, they're more susceptible to get sucked in and steal their parents' credit card, put down a few $1,000s to get the new hottest skin in town. And so the latest country we've been talking about is Germany. And they first came out and said, we're going to ban them for under 18. Any game that has it in, it's going to be an 18 plus kind of almost adult type game. Then they came back and rethought about it. But what they're doing is they have a 20-year-old Youth Protection Act, and they are going to come in and make the requirements a lot stricter. You're gonna have to say clearly that this game has loot boxes in it. They're not going to make it an 18 plus game, but some other places have done that. Belgium is one, and a few others. The law in Germany hasn't passed yet, but we'll see some new developments in youth protection.
Interesting. Well, listen, I am one of those that love to hunt down a cult classic, whether it's movies like Rocky Horror Picture Show or music like The Who. Who doesn't like to be a part of a cult classic? Well, now in the world of video games, I think there's kind of the beginnings of a new cult classic, and it's called Supraland. Go check it out on Steam. Why isn't anyone taking this game seriously? Well, maybe they're not because it's like this overly dramatic cartoon style art like Fall Guys. But this game has quite a bit going for it. It is a true sandbox game. The characters are little more than stick figures placed in a world that doesn't seem so big until you poke around. There's minimal backstory, even less storyline, and a vague overarching goal. You're just left to do your thing, which includes adventure, look around, solve puzzles along the way, fight off a few baddies, and before long, you are so hooked. And you don't even know why. In fact, the developers can't even lay claim to a certain genre. They say it's a combination of Metroid, Portal, and Zelda, which, if you think about it, those are three totally random ingredients put together. So there you go. And that is your gaming news in a minute. We'll be right back. Nightshade, I loved your stories, by the way. Everyone, we do not really share what our stories are beforehand. We just go into this blind. And good stories, although I have to say my favorite part is that you have broken the glass ceiling, my dear friend, on swearing. So since you dropped one, I'm telling you, the tape's off. I'm just going to be dropping expletives left and right.
Did I say some kind of expletive?
Oh, okay. It slipped out. You didn't know. Never mind.
I didn't even notice.
Friendly. I'm just kidding you. Hey, today we want to bring up a subject that is near and dear to our beautiful hearts, since it is actually the subject that brought Nightshade and I together back in, I don't know, when we're like the late 80s when Simpsons was coming out for the very first time, maybe somewhere around there, a little after.
Junior high school, baby.
Yeah, junior high. So there you go. That aged us. The important thing here is that we are ready to talk a little Dungeons and Dragons. We're excited for our extended podcast show where we're going to go in deeper. But the reason this is coming up is that we have seen more and more articles and details about the resurgence, the revival of Dungeons and Dragons. And it is such a beautiful thing to see D&D go from this thing that is done in the basements with kids who are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And, there's devil worshiping going on and it's this horrible thing. At least that's how it was when I started. And now over time, it's become more normalized. You see it in video games and you see, then it became more of a nerd thing. And then it kind of trickled away. But now in the last little while, it is hard to argue that Dungeons and Dragons is starting to find a new level of success that we are excited to talk about and excited to go in depth. Nightshade, what do you got for us?
So, it was in the Wall Street Journal, all these other publications where you wouldn't usually be reading about your, Dungeons and Dragons news. But, 2018 was the biggest year for D&D in its, 47-year history. 2019 came. was an even better year. 2020, partially thanks to COVID-19, was the best year by far they had. They had a 33% boost in sales in Dungeons and Dragons. And then, Magic, the card game, is also related, part of Wizards of the Coast. Their sales grew by 23%. And, they're owned by Hasbro. I don't know if you know that, but, Hasbro's other businesses are starting to struggle. People are not going to retails and buying toys and other things as much. And so they've actually started restructuring Hasbro's big business. And Dungeons and Dragons is part of one of the big three divisions now, and they're going to be putting a lot more focus into it. But I mean, you can't even turn on YouTube or any live stream without somebody's amazing, superstar, celebrity-laden, adventure coming up, something related to Dungeons and Dragons. And now that we're in the online age, you don't have to kind of go out knocking on doors. Do you know somebody that plays Dungeons and Dragons? You just jump online and a quick Google search or YouTube, and you'll have somebody teaching you. And there's even there's online educational places where you can put your kids into classes. Some of the most popular classes are how to play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sure they call it storytelling 101 and different things. And the kids get into it, and they're just begging their parents that this is what I want to do. I want to quit Boy Scouts. I want to quit this other stuff. I want to go to this storytelling lab and learn more and more. And it's not just kids, it's every age that just can't get enough of Dungeons and Dragons.
Why are we not? We were ahead of this years ago. Can I tell you? Right. We were in the beta of Roll20, like 5, 6, 7 years ago doing this. Goodness gracious. Right. And then I don't even know if you know this, but back when I was an elementary school teacher, I went and I got bored teaching kids the same. They don't want to hear the same old crap. So what did I do? I created a role-playing simulation game where the kids would come, and for like 20 minutes every day, they were put in this simulation world, and I'd send them all off to do different things and problem solve through certain situations. They adored it. They begged me. I could have them do any work I needed them to do all week long if I gave them that 20 minutes when we would do this role-playing every single week. So, hey.
Wow, that is fantastic. And it's not just the tabletop, but we're seeing, I think movies are going to be coming back with Dungeons and Dragons themes. We've got 3 major video games in the works. One of them's coming out soon. And for you Forgotten Realms fans who love R.A. Salvatore, Dritz Dorden and all his buddies are going to be rocking it out in Dark Alliance, an action-packed, slaughter-filled video game. The trailer's out. It looks really awesome. We'll get more into detail on the other 2 and what's going on as well in the podcast.
Yeah. So our plan is to do an extended podcast show on this topic. We want to talk a little bit about what we just shared here, but then we want to go more in depth in terms of where D&D began, where it's going, what it means for us as lifelong D&D fans, how to try some new things maybe, and just, kind of get our geek on this. Sound good?
Sounds good. I mean, every way we can squeeze a little bit more of that Dungeons and Dragons fantasy part into your life makes your life that much better.
It does. It makes it easier to cope with, really. Okay, guys, listen. Thank you for tuning in to this gaming news update from the GenXGamers. Don't forget that you can also, in the description, find access to our podcast. And if you're listening to this on podcast, vice versa, you can look in the description and find a link to the YouTube video. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in a little bit, Chris, for the extended podcast show. As for the rest of you, keep gaming. We will see you next time.